938 Live. This is Talkback.
Believing in Singapore, pioneering our future. That was the theme of Prime Minister Hsien Loong's annual National Day rally speech. In his speech last night, he set out his vision for the country, one where everyone is given full opportunities to achieve their potential and where people are judged by their contributions and character, not just their paper qualifications. Now, the Prime Minister also gave the assurance that Singaporeans will be provided for when they retire. He highlighted how many Singaporeans have significant savings in their flats, which can be unlocked in their retirement.
Now, going forward, there are plans for more flexibility in the CPF policy. And finally, the Prime Minister spoke on making Singapore a home for all ages. Now, tell us what stood out for you in the Prime Minister's speech last night. You can start giving us a call on 669-11938, or, as some of you have already, Desmond Goh and Felicia Huang will be reading out your comments a little later on our Facebook page, Official 938 Live. In the studio with us this morning is Dr. Amy Khor. She is Senior Minister of State for Health and Manpower. She's also Chairman of REACH, the government's feedback unit. And also with us is Mr. Amrin. Amin, he is a member of the REACH Supervisory Panel. Good morning, both of you, and welcome to the studio again, Minister.
Good morning.
Now, first of all, Dr. Khor, what is the feedback that REACH has received so far on the Prime Minister's rally speech? I know it was just last night, but
Yes.
Singaporeans, being the enthusiastic bunch they are, I'm sure have already told you a few things.
Yes, in fact, I think there was quite a bit of feedback on both PM's Facebook as well as on our REACH portal. And in fact, we had a WhatsApp conversation also yesterday, so we had quite a bit of feedback. I think largely the initial reactions have been positive. I think many people actually said that, you know, the speech, the rally was inspiring, was holistic, you know, was caring and in fact transformational. They lauded PM for paying tribute to First President Yusof Ishak, as well as recognizing many other pioneers, ordinary citizens, but did extraordinary work and contributions. And they also commended PM for, you know, asking Singaporeans to have the same kind of spirit, the can-do spirit, to shoot for the stars, to become the pioneers of their generation too, and also to build on the legacy of the pioneers. I think many also welcome the Silver Support Scheme, the announcement that there would be some flexibility injected to the CPF system, as well as the extension of lease buyback scheme to 4 roomers.
Okay, we'll talk about those policy issues in just a while, but in that spirit of the Singapore spirit that you mentioned as well, Dr. Khor, let's take a look at what Felicia Huang has been saying on our Facebook page, Official 938 Live. She says, what stood out in the speech was the reiteration of the Singapore spirit that makes the nation work and that makes us special, showing us that contributions and character in the long run are the decisive factors in the life of an individual and of nations alike. It is not an intense race to beat everybody else, but rather to think more broadly about how, as a society, we measure success. Thank you very much, Felicia. No doubt also alluding to what's been announced in regard to recognizing those who graduate from polytechnics and ITEs more effectively in the future. Let's see what Miss Yo has to say about this. She joins us now on 669-11938. Hi, Miss Yo. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Dr. Khor. And it's really great to hear the rally last night. And what stood out for me was really the Silver Support Scheme. I believe many of us really want to see the needy elderly be taken care of. So we look forward to a very generous help for these people.
Yes, what else, ma'am?
I'm just also hoping that, you know, this will be also an opportunity for the government to look at some of the ways in which it spends money so that more can be channeled to such schemes, like some of the lavish ceremonies and even publications at events of awards and so on. So I think it's a good time to re-look at some of the way money is being spent so that it can be channeled to people who are in need.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Yeo. Let's talk about the Silver Support Scheme, since Ms. Yeo has brought it up as well. The Silver Support Scheme is for low-income elderly Singaporeans. To what extent would you say this might be actually a departure from the principle of personal responsibility? Amrin, perhaps you could step in here.
Well, I think it's not a departure from personal responsibility. In fact, I think Prime Minister took pains to stress that personal responsibility remains core and critical, and I think that is something to highlight. But what I think is crucial is that it's important for us to understand that this is the new way forward. I think it's what Prime Minister has said last year, and this is part of us, the government and the community, supplementing the efforts of people who are in need.
Helping each other, in other words.
That's right.
There's a yearly bonus here. What factors should determine the quantum of this yearly bonus, Dr. Khor?
Well, first of all, I think PM has said that really this is for the low-income, vulnerable elderly who, would not have accumulated enough CPF savings for various reasons. Could be health, could be family circumstances, and they may have no family support, including not even owning a home. So I think really it's about helping this group of people. He talked about there could be 10 to 20% of these people with individual efforts. Even with individual efforts, they cannot make it on their own and they need support. And this is what Amrin is talking about, new way forward, as in government and society stepping in to help this group of people, and therefore having this bonus. So I think we'll have to look at the circumstances of these individuals, but basically is to help them because they, on their own are unable to cope with living expenses.
We've been talking about personal responsibility. The Prime Minister did say we need to take personal responsibility. He said the more or longer you work, the more you save and the more you will have in retirement. Makes complete sense. However, most people would ask themselves, does it mean that in order to live and thrive in Singapore, I am going to have to work till I just can't do it anymore? How can we assure Singaporeans that this is not the case, that you will not have to work till your dying day? What do you think, Dr. Khor?
Well, first of all, I think PM did say also that by and large, actually, many Singaporeans, those who have reached 55 or in their retirement years, they're actually doing relatively well, with a combination of CPF plus their home, as well as perhaps support from the family, they are able to retire. But there will always be this group of people that we need to provide help. In addition to that, I think we are not talking about asking all Singaporeans to work, to continue working if they do not wish to do so. The idea really is to encourage as many Singaporeans as possible and to make it possible for them, if they wish to continue to work for as long as they can and they wish to. And that's what we are trying to do. And of course, if they work longer, then obviously they'll be able to accumulate even more savings to retire comfortably when they wish to do that.
Some might say with the high cost of living, they're really left with no choice. They have to.
Well, as I've said, I think when we talk about retirement, we're talking about CPF, home ownership, plus, savings and family support and so on. But we do want to encourage Singaporeans who wish to do so to continue to work. And that's what we're doing with the retirement and re-employment legislation, with providing incentives for employers to do so. The other thing we need to think about also is life expectancy is getting longer. And therefore, retiring, say, at even 65, that means that you have close to another 20 years or so of your life. And very many Singaporeans actually do want to work. Recent survey by Job Street, for instance, show that 58% of the people that they surveyed who are above 40 years old say they want to continue working.
They want to remain active,
and
right?
I think it gives them a sense of a purpose, a self-esteem and so on.
Right. Okay, let's go to our phone lines. 6691193. We have Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
What do you think, Richard? What's your feedback on the various announcements?
Yes, I am concerned about the allowing the retirement age at the point of retirement for people to be able to withdraw the cash lump sum up to a certain percentage, 10 or 20%. I think this is contrary to the CPF intention, because this is just kicking the can down the road. For a long time, the government has been able to stand by doing what is right and not what is popular. And this, in my opinion, is doing what is popular. So the concern is, why is it that the government is not able to do what is right and not what is popular at this time? I think it is because the government has messed up severely the last 5 to 10 years, and now they have no choice but to appease the public. And this is of concern.
Okay, let's discuss that for a moment. Is that a populist move? The Prime Minister announced an adjustment in the CPF policy to allow those 65 and above the option to take out part of their savings in a lump sum, an amount not exceeding 20% of the amount in their account. Dr. Khor, what was the rationale behind this?
Well, I think the priority still remains that we want to ensure that Singaporeans do have annual monthly payment, after they retire, to support the basic living expenses. So that remains as a key priority. But I think we have also had feedback from Singaporeans, from many Singaporeans, including our members of parliament, that really there are also Singaporeans who have worked for a long time, their whole life, and are looking forward, for instance, to do something with some of the savings, pursue their dream, holiday, for instance, or in fact, actually many say that it may be because of family circumstances that they need some amount, lump sum payment out of their CPF. So I think we need to balance the needs of Singaporeans, getting money, a steady stream of income for the living expenses, and then, a lump sum for some of these needs. And therefore, PM has said that we can inject some flexibility, allow them to take out a lump sum upon retirement, but capped at a certain amount, for instance, 20% of whatever they have. So I think we are trying to balance the different needs, conflicting needs sometimes of the Singaporeans.
Based on calculations, this will be sustainable? Because Richard did say that he's concerned that we're just kicking the can down the road.
Well, I think PM did highlight that what it really means, individual, if they take out, they also need to know that therefore down the road, the monthly payment is going to be reduced. Yeah. So they'll then have to look at other ways to supplement this. For instance, housing monetization, renting out a room and so on. So you have to look at a combination of these elements.
Speaking of housing monetization, that's what we will be talking about when we continue on Talkback. Stay with us on 938 Live. Looking forward to your phone calls as well. 669-11938. Tell us what you think of the Prime Minister's National Day rally and the various issues that were addressed. Talking today all about the Prime Minister's annual National Day rally speech. He set out his vision for the country, one where everyone is given full opportunities to achieve their potential. People are judged by their contributions and character, not just their paper qualifications. He also announced plans for more flexibility in the CPF policy. Give us a ring, 669-11938. Tell us which announcements struck a chord with you. What do you think of the various proposed changes? We're joined today by Dr. Khor, Senior Minister of State for Health and Manpower, also Chairman of REACH, the government's feedback unit, and Amin. He is a member of the REACH Supervisory Panel. Our number 669-11938. Now, Dr. Khor, the Prime Minister also announced last night the lease buyback scheme, which was for 3-room flats, will now be extended to 4-room flats. Some might ask, why stop there? Why not include 5-room flats as well?
Well, when the lease buyback scheme was first introduced, only opening it up to 3-room flats, I think one of the consideration is, of course, we wanted to provide options for Singaporeans to monetize their housing. They could either downgrade, for instance, or in this option is, sell and then lease back. And the idea then was that, well, 3-roomers, they have less option to downgrade, because it's only 2-room or studio apartments. Right. Whereas for those who own larger flats, 4-room and 5 rooms, there are more options to downgrade to 3 rooms and so on. And that's why it was open to 3-roomers. And also because even aging in place, the elderly, 3-room, well, it's a size that is probably where they are able to upkeep. If it's just a two-person household. Right. And that was the reason. Now, of course, through our Singapore conversation and other feedback, there's been call for us to open it up to 4-roomers, and therefore PM has decided that we'll do so, because aging in place is really a key reason why they want to take up this option.
Why not 5-roomers as well, though?
Yes, as I've said earlier, I think the idea was that if you're larger flats, there are actually other options too. Right. And therefore, by opening up to 4-room, you're already opening up to more than 50% of Singaporeans. So I suppose we'll have to watch and monitor how this goes.
Let's see what Madam Go has to say about this. She's joining us now on 669-11938. Hi, Madam Go.
Yes, morning, Bharati and your guests. May I find out, is there any safeguard the government has? Should there be the present government, should there be some certain handover of power due to some election or something like that?
What types of safeguards, ma'am? Huh? What types of safeguards?
I don't know.
What you want safeguards for? What exactly?
Example, there should be some handover of power due to an election, what sort of safeguard do like our do we hold on to our CPF, our housing, or our this whatever?
Right, I understand. Continuity of policy changes and the flexibility that has been talked about. Dr. Khor, perhaps you could comment on that.
Well, I think that for all policies that government implement, this government always looks long term and try and ensure that these policies are sustainable for the benefit of Singaporeans, and also, of course, to ensure the future of Singapore. But if there really is a takeover, handover, or so on, I think this government can only safeguard what we have done in terms of the policies, in terms of making sure that it's long-term and sustainable. But how other future governments will do, and if it's not, the same government, I cannot.
Comment on it. Sure.
Yes.
I mean, we can't all be looking into a crystal ball and really knowing what's going to happen. Amrin, let's talk about the CPF minimum sum. This has been a point of contention for several years now. The Prime Minister said that he feels the present $155,000 is far from excessive, and he illustrated this with an example. What is your sense, though, from speaking to people on the ground? Is the figure still too much for some of them?
Well, I think definitely there are a few people who think that as a lump sum it's a huge amount, but there are also others who think that it's actually not adequate to cover their retirement needs. So I think PM is keenly aware of the feedback that some think that this amount is onerous and a huge amount, and I think it's taken pains to show that when you stretch that amount, the minimum sum, it actually doesn't go that far. So it's important for us to realize that. And I think there was he was the financial advisor, he took on the role, and I think that was an important illustration to send a message across. And I think he also pointed out that there are ways in which we can actually monetize the housing component, and I think there was also a mention that the 155K amount is actually 50% of it is only required if you own a home. So I think there was a realization that it's a huge amount by some people, and it is at the same time I suppose mitigated by the fact that if you own a home, you don't actually have to come with upfront cash that amount.
So that makes it a little more manageable. For
That's
sure.
Right. Yes.
To what extent do you think more actually can be done in order to help Singaporeans understand the intricacies of this, why this amount is needed as well?
Well, definitely I think a lot more can be done to inform people about the schemes, the fundamentals of the scheme, and I think efforts are underway, but at the same time the public also has to take personal responsibility to find out what the fundamentals of the policies are and not be swayed by criticisms that are not founded based on facts. But I think on the part of the government, I understand that Deputy Prime Minister Tharman as well as Tan Chuan Jin has made speeches in Parliament, and I think in the past few months or so there's been a lot of explanation of the CPF.
Stay with us on 938 Live. We'll continue talking about this, including some paradigm shifts that will be required in the realm of education and employment. Desmond Goh says, finally, after so many years, we have realized that you don't necessarily need a degree in order to stand out in your line of work, in your career. We'll talk about that when we continue on Talkback right after news and sports. Stay with us. Believing in Singapore, pioneering our future. That was the theme of Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong's annual National Day rally speech delivered last night. He talked about a country where everyone is given full opportunities to achieve their potential and people are judged by their contributions and character, not just their paper qualifications. He also gave the assurance that Singaporeans will be provided for when they retire and highlighted how many Singaporeans have significant savings in their flats, which can be unlocked in their retirement. Going forward, there are also plans for more flexibility in the CPF policy. Tell us what you think. 669-11938. We're joined today by Dr. Amy Khor, Senior Minister of State for Health and Manpower. She's also Chairman of REACH, the government's feedback unit. And Amin is a member of the REACH Supervisory panel. We're taking your feedback on 669-11938. Now, an advisory committee will be set up to look into introducing greater flexibility to the CPF system. Several of you have been talking about the CPF CPF system on our Facebook page, official 938 Live. Peter Chia says, our CPF system has grown to be a robust system. It is very much an institution, a key pillar of our governance and part of ordinary Singaporeans' lives. It's contributed to the nation's resilience in economically challenging times. The challenge is for CPF to safeguard Singaporean security for old age. This objective should never change, says Peter. Also, David Loong is saying on our Facebook page, official 938 Live, if a person can prove that he or she is fully equipped with personal savings for retirement, shouldn't he or she be allowed to withdraw CPF fully? Dr. Khor, what do you think of this? He's asking for perhaps that type of flexibility David Wong is suggesting. What do you think? How much more flexible do you think the system could be?
Well, in fact, I think PM said that we'll be setting up an advisory panel to study these issues of allowing more flexibility to Singaporeans. It is complex, and therefore, we need the panel to study carefully. And some of the options are really about having more flexibility for CPF members to invest their savings to accept more risk in the hope of higher returns. Of course, also whether, what are the rules and limits for lump sum withdrawals, for instance, and whether we need to pack the stream of income from CPF Life, say to inflation, to cost of living, so that in the initial years you get lower payout, but then it will rise to catch up with rising cost of living. So these are various issues that we'll need to study.
Stay with us on 938 Live. We're also taking your calls. Mrs. Ho joins us now. Hi, Mrs. Ho.
Hi, good morning to everyone. I just want to compliment the government for looking after the needs of those lower income concerning their CPF Life. I also sincerely hope that the government will also look into the other group of people who only trust the government, like for example myself, that I'd like to put even more money instead of 161,000 with the CPF Life, so that my monthly payout will not only be 1,200. Because I think that when I grow old, I will not be able to look into like letting out a room of my house, or even go into other more riskier investments to earn higher rates of interest for my savings. So I just hope that the government would look into the other group of citizens who would like to put in more money, so that the monthly payout will not be just $1,200 a month.
I understand.
I think everybody will know that that is not sufficient for this current standard of living.
Thank you very much for that, ma'am. Dr. Khor, is this a possibility, perhaps something the committee could consider as well?
Indeed, this is something that the panel could also look into. I mean, this is one of the feedback that we have received, but I think we need to also understand. I suppose she appreciates the fact that CPF Life, the return is actually very
the interest
attractive.
rates are higher.
The interest rates are much higher, and
although some people are asking for higher interest rates, even higher interest rates. Amrin, I'm sure you've heard this from several people as well.
Yes, definitely. I think we've also got feedback that some people think they can get better returns from parking their funds with pension funds and all that. I think we've heard that, but I think the government has to adopt a balancing act, as what Dr. Khor has said. I mean, there are different expectations, and I think it has to be emphasized that it's a minimum sum. If you want to have more for your retirement, there are ways in which we can actually provide that for ourselves.
Okay, why are higher interest rates from CPF not sustainable or feasible? Let's just address that, because several of our listeners have asked that before.
Well, the fact is that in order for us to pay these returns, to give these returns, the funds that GIC manage must also get returns that will be able to sustainable. That is sustainable, and therefore, actually, for CPF, the interest rates now are higher than what comparable financial instruments or investments would get from the market.
So let's actually look at all of this in perspective here. You're already getting pretty high returns. 669-11938 is our number. Now let's talk about the other major issue that was brought up. The Prime Minister revealed that DPM Tharman Shanmugaratnam will lead a tripartite committee involving government, employers and unions to develop an integrated system of education, training and career progression for Singaporeans, promote industry support and social recognition for individuals to advance based on skills. So this means greater recognition for those who are ITE and poly graduates. Give us a sense of what the feedback on the ground has been concerning all of this. What has been the feedback of, say, students, parents, employers? Amrin?
Over the years, we've heard that many people have said that Singapore has become a stressful place where the only measure of success is academic abilities. But I think it's not true. And I think what the PMs really try to show is that it's possible to get good jobs and income without good paper qualifications, and he has come up with different examples, many examples of Mr. Dorothy Han, Mr. Roy Lim, and a few others. And I think nothing presents the argument better than personal stories, and I think this is something that's critical for our society at this juncture, and not just to measure a particular person just by its academic abilities, but it takes a cultural shift, and I think a mindset change, and it's not just a part of the government, it's also employers as well as the community at large.
What do you think the government's role is in changing mindsets on the ground? We know that mindset change can be very, very challenging. Dr. Khor?
Well, I think that actually government has been saying that there are many pathways to success, and I'm glad that Aspire committee is promoting study and work, another pathway. That means besides academic qualification, there are really many other pathways. And government's role is really, in terms of promoting such mindset change, cultural shift. For instance, by walking the talk, PM has said that government will also look at performance performance and skills for career progression. And I think we can then also promote this through the employers, through the unions, through our tripartite work group.
I think many a time, while government says it will take the lead, it's the line managers that need a mindset change, really, because they are the ones who are doing the actual employing. So how can we convince these line managers that, this mindset really has to be something that is something they have to almost immediately adopt? Amrin?
I think it takes time to change for sure, but there's an increasing realization, and I think society has to place enough value in people beyond just academic abilities.
Absolutely.
And I think the personal stories of people actually having done well, would go in some way towards dispelling that long-held notion that you need paper qualifications to do well.
Let's talk also about the fact that we have seen efforts recently to increase the number of university places. So that has sent out the message that a university degree is important. Yet now we're saying, well, it is not a necessity. How do you balance the two priorities? I understand it is about giving every individual the options, but still, some employers might read this as a sign that, we should continue on that path where we say you need that university degree, and now you have no excuse for not having one, since we have many more university places as well. Dr. Khor?
Well, I think really it is about options. It is about different pathways, and therefore, I think we need to recognize that people have different aptitudes, different interests, different talents. Some people pursue the academic route, they do better, but some people actually would do much better if they work first, gain experience, develop deep skills, and then progress and attain the relevant qualifications, upgrade and so on. So a university degree is not the all and end all, but having said that, we need to provide enough options, and there will continue to be people who will continue to want to aspire towards a university degree. But what we're saying that you don't need to get the university degree right away.
Right.
In fact, for some, it might be better to go and work first, gain the experience, and then get to the relevant qualifications later.
Employers
must allow that to happen.
And must also think about the pay differential at the starting point, don't they? I mean, let's face it, we're a capitalist society. You are recognized and valued based on also what you are paid. I mean, that is also a gauge of how recognized and valued you are. Is that something that is going to be discussed as well? Pay differentials, so on and so forth at the starting point?
I think Aspire committee will come up with detailed recommendations, but the idea really is that rewards should be based on abilities, on performance, upon the skill sets and output.
And of course, employers need to invest more in the training of their staff, to be supportive in that development. I hope that many of you are convinced that this will be actually a good business case. There is a good business case for all of this. What more do you think can be done within the education system, though, to make the vocational track, so to speak, on par with the academic track, as it is in the case of Germany, for instance? This is something that Ms. Indrani Raja has talked about before. Amrin, your thoughts on this?
Yes, I think the Aspire committee will deal in greater detail on this, but I think that's the direction that PM has mentioned that we are taking, that we are allowing more opportunities for young people to develop to the best of their abilities, and we're providing their platforms for them or work-study opportunities, and following the track of the Germany as well as other countries. And I think that will be dealt with in greater detail.
Thanks very much, both of you, for joining us today. Dr. Amy Khor, Senior Minister of State for Health and Manpower, also Chairman of REACH, the government's feedback unit. Amrin Amin, a member of the REACH Supervisory Panel. Now, if you have more questions or concerns, we want to hear from you on Facebook, Official 938 Live. Many thanks for your phone calls this morning as well.